welcome back to our podcast. We discussed
that.
And today we have a prompt.
Does God exist?
Yep, exactly. It's been a debate, definitely, I would say.
So many people have been killed over this
Oh
question.
my God, the Crusades.
Yeah.
I think an important question is which God? Like, if there is a God, what kind of God? Because we've heard of many, so...
And you gotta ask yourself the question, what is God?
Yep.
It's just
Really
an
universe.
entity that is bigger than all of us.
But
I don't believe in God, guys.
But that's exactly what I mean. There's so many entities that are bigger
Yeah,
than us.
and some
the
of-
universe itself is an
Exactly.
entity that's bigger than us.
But the universe is a physical thing.
Yeah, but is God a physical thing?
No.
Yeah, God is a...
spiritual thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
More physical.
What would you say? Do you think God is more spiritual or physical?
It has to be spiritual though, because I feel like
Define spiritual though, what does that mean?
that's a good question. I think anything that can influence beyond physical nature. I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, so anything that goes beyond sort of humanity, in a way?
Is it
Just
something that you can...
life. I don't think a building has a god though. I don't think an inanimate object.
So it has to be a life, you say?
Yeah, okay, but then boom, that already proves the question that God does not exist. If even an inanimate object cannot be, do you understand? If God has rule
This is an
over
interesting
all,
question.
God has rule over all, meaning He should also have rule over inanimate objects.
So that means that a piece of paper in our printer at school, and the printer, and the building,
And the ink inside the printer.
exactly,
Yeah.
they all are subject to God. That's such an interesting thought. I've never thought about it like that.
I mean, in some religions, God is us, right? Like Buddhism is like, it's not about
Your inner
worshipping,
God.
yeah, it's not about worshipping something, you worship kind of like...
God living.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait, but guys,
yeah.
to be fair, because God didn't create the world, God created humanity, right? That's the whole thing, that He created Adam and Eve, right? So then, but because Mother Nature, I think, is its own separate aspect that we need to as well just
Yeah.
separate from God.
Yeah. So you'd say that Earth and all of its landscapes is the product of Mother Nature, not God.
Yeah, because it's all
Okay.
scientific.
But then who's Mother Nature?
It's just Mother Nature. It's
I
just
feel like that's a religion of itself.
Yeah, because you're personifying.
Yeah.
You're personifying nature, and Christianity would argue who created that nature, God. You know what I mean?
no, people invented Christianity.
Yeah, no, but God is kept up by belief, not by existence.
It's crazy how much power belief holds.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's also like important to ask because, why did Christianity emerge in the first place? There's some guy Jesus, right? He said some stuff and people believed him, and now they think they're repeating what he said, but they're just blindly trusting in whatever it is. But they're not actually, they're not being driven by love, which was what he wanted.
exactly,
They're just driven by these rules that they wrote themselves.
Exactly.
I think they're driven by ego. Because if you think about it, in like human history, some of the most powerful and also rich figures of our history have all been religious figures. You get power being at the top of.
Yeah, the Pope is
The
still
clergy,
literally,
yes,
the Pope
yeah.
has met every president.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Even if you look at the structure of what do you call it? You also need to look at the structure of monarchy and see how before it used to be the king was at the top, but what was above the king was the church. The church was always in control of everything, and that is sort of how Protestantism was born as well, because they were like, we don't want to deal with that like capitalist aspect of what Christianity has become, where the church receives all of these funds. So is it about God, or is it, like you said, about ego? Is it about money and
About power.
fame?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like monarchs, they have the divine right to rule. When you mean God chose them,
Yeah.
to
Who said
become a
that?
ruler.
Like,
Yeah,
how-
exactly.
Like, it does just come down to power. Like, for example, looking at countries that are like Christian, like for example Poland, which the whole I guess the values of the people are built on the traditions of Christianity. Like when people say that, oh no, it's about abortions because God, children, whatever, that's because of
Called
those
life.
because of those religious traditions that are there because of, I don't know, for power, I guess, to control the population. I mean, that's why some of the I think also like Muslim traditions and rules, like not to eat pork and stuff, they also came from the fact that people were, actually I'm not sure about this, I might be saying something, but the government was trying to, I guess, control people and like control their intake of meat, so they said not to do that. I don't know. Is that true? Is that true?
I think in terms of Muslim traditions, I think the reason they don't eat pork is because of like the dirtiness that it carries.
Yeah.
It's because of the animal
kosher or not
itself.
kosher. Oh, is that Jewish?
Kosher's Jewish.
Jewish,
yeah.
Okay.
Are we fully educated enough to be discussing this topic? No, it's interesting though. Isn't
But
it?
I believe that I think that actually the Muslim religion, I believe in that one the most out of all of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Genuinely, because I think that because people look for God for hope when they're helpless, right? That's literally why most people go to church.
Yeah.
And because
No,
they
God
have
is
that community.
hope. God is something to live for.
But that's why it's a delusion. It's a delusion. But it works. It's a placebo effect, and it works. And it's but whereas Muslims, they like, I believe that they truly look at God to like praise Him. There's more of a worship there.
Do you think that
Yeah.
worship is more important than personal?
Oh no, I believe that personal growth and gaining hope is much more important.
Yeah.
However, to what God is, so something that you pray to. Muslims have the most stereotypical God.
Oh, that's what you mean. Like, what is God in the way of how religion defines them? Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I guess
see.
you can say that the Christian religion, the reason why people pray or whatever is to go to heaven. It's very egoistic. Like it's for a very
One of the
egoistic reason. Whereas
differences.
what you say about worshiping God that is different.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
And you can also, you can also tie back to the church in the olden times where you would literally pay a fee to get into heaven.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could book your spot.
Yeah.
Is that not?
No, and that was, I think, the turning point that started Protestantism. That's when they really realized, like, this is a
Like there's
scam.
an issue here.
We're not doing religion anymore.
Yeah.
We're just a greedy society.
I think it's also interesting to discuss the aspect of who is allowed to ask what is God. Who's allowed to answer that question? Because we as people, we're all atheists here. Like, you'd consider yourself a non-religious person, right? All of you here, to a certain extent, I'm sure. And maybe some of us more than others, I'm sure, because we also have different beliefs on it. But what makes us entitled to be able to answer this question of what is God?
But that was my point before we started recording this, that we literally cannot answer this because we cannot contradict a belief and opinion. That is literally freedom of speech. That is.
Yeah.
But I think we as humans are the only ones who are able to talk about this because we're not talking about animals, right? Animals don't have a god, and we can't really talk. Well, I guess we could talk to God.
But
Let's just
the
pray,
thing
guys.
is, animals also have a hierarchy, so they already know they have in their brain. They're also chemically wired to establish groups and hierarchy. So maybe they also establish.
But they don't call it God. They also
But
establish
does
something.
that mean that because all animals, because even for humans it's such a primal thing to establish a hierarchy, does that mean that because we're also a more intelligent species, that we're going to assume that this hierarchy is above, so like superhuman?
Oh, is it because we are literally at the top of the food web, essentially, as of now?
We
That we
wouldn't-
need to believe in
exactly.
something that's larger than us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because otherwise we would just have too much power in ourselves. We would think of us as too highly, you
Oh,
know?
so maybe the whole idea of God needs to be there.
To keep the society in check. Like, don't be too.
I think in a primal perspective that makes sense.
God keeps us humble.
So,
Yeah.
so you define God as a predator?
Whoa! No, God is a prey. God preys on us, and God.
We pray to God.
Yeah, we pray to God, and we pray to
Wow.
God.
So is
Because
God the
technically,
predator?
people beat themselves up with. I have so many friends who they can't do anything. You know, for example, at this age, exploring sexuality, they can't even do that because they go, "It's a sin to me." And I just look at them and I go, "You are being controlled by your own mind. Like it's
Yeah.
so delusional."
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend who I felt like she never could be the full version of herself because she already felt like she couldn't like say certain things. That she wouldn't swear. She wouldn't let that anger out. Like she got pushed like I can't say that. And, like I loved her, but it was just like sad to see because like she felt like she couldn't do those things. Why?
It's a prison.
No, because it is a prison. I had my great grandma. She was quite religious, and my dad once told me a story where he told me that she would dress herself in the dark so that she never looked at her naked body.
Oh,
See,
wow.
But if religion like
That's
leads to such
terrifying.
strong emotions of shame and guilt, is that what we're doing?
So then God is a predator.
But
God preys
exactly,
upon
yeah.
that
I feel like-
weakness that humans have.
I feel like that's not what religion should be. That's not what spirituality should
No,
be.
it shouldn't be
It
that.
should be
Yeah,
about love. And that's what it should be about. It should be about,
Actually, accepting who you are,
Exactly.
loving who you
God
are.
was a hippie.
God
Friends
was
with
a
look
hookers
at
and
Jesus.
gays.
Like look at him,
Yeah.
you know?
Dude, he was so cool. I would if I heard God, like if he was Jesus, the actual version of Jesus, if I was in BC, like,
Yeah.
like literally, I would have sat there and listened to his words, and I would have been like, oh my God, I love the world, I love everyone
Yeah.
around me.
And I think
He made the world a better place for a little bit, and then people took that power.
Because the thing is, people started to get jealous of the power, and it was the kings and whatever. And to give backstory, because I don't completely know who was in charge back then. Zane.
Well, so from some of the sources that I've consumed, which is a movie, a Hollywood movie.
I've seen it.
That's such a good movie though. The
Life of
Romans-
Brian or
Yeah. It was a bit more. But no, so the Romans sentenced Jesus to death. The Romans were the center of power back then.
Oh wow.
And then you've got, well, Rome fell, and then you had the Byzantine Empire, but that was a Roman Empire based off of Christianity.
Okay, see, so they
In
stole his words.
Turkey.
That's what I mean. That they were like, oh my God, he's getting so many people to become
Yeah.
Protestants, or no, because that was not a thing.
Oh, no, yeah.
no, he was getting so many people to become Christians, but in a good way, the good Christians. And then
I bet he didn't call it Christianity back then. He was just being, I feel like he was just speaking his truth. He was just
Yeah.
being
He was a
fucking being
philosopher.
himself.
He was a
Exactly.
philosopher.
And because people, you know, they look for like a direction in life, and they're too scared. They don't have the courage that he had to just stick to their own word, to stick to their own heart. They follow something that they find safe. You know, they use religion to, you know, find direction, whereas he just, you know, use his heart as direction. I feel like I guess that's what the idea was. Whereas now people use. Sorry, you were saying.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Very,
I also think it's interesting that you said he was a philosopher.
Yeah.
Why do we define Plato? Why do we define Socrates as philosophers but not leaders of religion? What was the difference? What was the essential difference?
because that was philosophy.
Yeah,
What
he
he
was
was
just
doing.
sitting around thinking.
Yeah.
He had too much time on his hands.
He didn't have many material things, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't define his
He had-
worth by
he had
material
sand
things.
People didn't
and a white cloak to wear every day.
Exactly. And like people didn't agree with him either. He would say things that would upset them even.
But he just continued.
Exactly.
Because he was like, you guys, this is my opinion. I know this is my truth.
Yeah, and he just continued to share it until when he was executed, right?
Yeah.
But Socrates too was executed.
So was he
for
actually
years.
crucified?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was actually crucified. That was awful. That sounds terrifying to be crucified.
Right? Why do you like that? Right? I mean, people just like believe in that in this gruesome story that's also told to children.
Yeah,
Right? Children are talking
no.
about, and this guy was just like his veins pierced, his legs pierced, his stomach pierced, everything. He carried this huge cross up a hill, and the kids are supposed to be like, oh wow, that's cool.
Right,
I'm still gonna believe in
Color in
this.
the
Yeah.
picture. Jesus on the cross.
They always add the red.
Yeah.
Kindergarten religion class.
Because when they told me to draw Jesus, I would also put red because that's all I see in,
Yeah.
in like even like the stained glass. Jesus on the cross with red stained glass.
Yeah. Exactly.
Jesus, that's so horrible.
I think there's also something. This might sound controversial because of how we're talking about this, but don't you think there's something sort of romantic about that?
No.
Oh, for sure, for
Think
sure,
about it.
for
Thank
sure,
you.
for sure.
Yeah, think about like the ways that people died in tragedy, but they died
For
for
something.
their own
They're
beliefs.
called, what are they called? Like
That's not
the...
romantic.
sacrifices.
That's self-destruction. That's literally for your own,
But
but not your own
that's
belief.
how
It's a
we
belief
view
that was,
it.
but the thing is, it's a belief that's been pushed on you. Think about it. They pushed those beliefs because that's the only thing they had then. It was literally you're Protestant or Christian or Catholic. You had 3 options to choose from. There was nothing but. There was no atheism back then. No, there was, but it
I
wasn't open
understand
at
that,
all.
but it's
No, like the martyrs, the
yeah,
people that
no,
died for...
people that died
yeah.
for he died
way
for other
above
people's
people.
sins.
Exactly.
Do you see how there's something so
Yeah, because he thinks he's who said sacrificing? Who said the word
sacrificing?
It is a sacrifice, and a sacrifice does not mean good. A sacrifice.
No, but I don't think that we're judging the sacrifice in itself as a good or bad thing necessarily. Just the way that it's been received in culture, it's got such a romantic impact. Like, so much art has been produced in name of Jesus.
and
And
these beautiful,
yeah.
these beautiful
Yeah.
mosaics on the sides of churches.
Architecture,
They love
everything.
pictures of Jesus on this cross.
But that's
you know?
not because of God or Jesus.
I think it is. No, I think it is. I think it's because of the power
Power that
that
yeah.
religion holds.
Yeah.
And that moment is viewed as this like beautiful like representation of what Christianity is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about sacrifice.
So they romanticize
Exactly,
killing,
yeah,
so they
yeah, yeah,
romanticize
yeah,
the
yeah.
killing. Okay,
I'm
so
not saying it's romantic in the sense that
okay,
it is.
so that's what
It's just-
I was.
There is an image of it that is
Uh-huh.
sort of beautiful.
It is. I can get so carried away by it.
Do you think I love sitting in churches really because I look at it?
Exactly.
They
No,
are
but you
beautiful.
feel something more than just a building.
Yeah.
You know.
No, when you go into a church, there's definitely
A
That's-
presence.
a presence. I was going to
that's
say
such a
a
good word.
presence,
Yeah.
but, I mean, all these people come there and they stay there and they share their thoughts. Their thoughts must stay there in the air, right? The atmosphere of like all their hopes and dreams or pain or grief. You know, that's the place where they leave all that.
Uh-huh.
Or the place that they let it out. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's got to have some kind of meaning.
However, I
you know?
do think that it can be destructive, like you
Yeah.
said, because there
sure.
are cases in which people that are highly religious, for example, don't go to therapy. You know, or
Right.
conversion camps.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
The fact that
preach,
that's something that also came out of
Yeah.
Christianity. You know, you can talk about this beautiful romantic like scene of what Christianity should be about,
Uh-huh.
but then it's not.
But it's reality, yeah.
But then it's just
And people,
not.
because people
you
pick
know?
out whatever they want from it. Whatever
Yeah.
they think, oh yeah, no, I hate the gays, so let's just, you know, someone would say that
Fuck the
probably.
gays out.
Let's fuck the gays
I'm
out.
still gonna wear like double-threaded fucking apologies. You know, you're not allowed to mix different types of fabric.
Yeah.
In-
And then, okay.
according to the Bible,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to do that. Another thing, if
So
you
someone
buy
had OCD.
if you
Bible.
buy a plane of land,
Yeah.
you technically own everybody living on that land according to the Bible.
Are you
It's
joking?
fully
That's
like
like slavery
it's,
became a
that's
thing.
slavery. That's
That's
literal
Wow.
slavery. But then also, you know, but we don't like the gays. We're gonna do all this other stuff that we're just gonna forget about. But we don't like the gays.
Ricky Gervais made a really good joke about that, and I'm going to repeat it in his stand-up. And he was like,
It's just funny how gay people are like discriminated, but lesbians aren't. So what? God's just in the air going like, oh no, I like to see lesbians.
Yeah.
gays. And it was like
a really
so
good
cool,
point,
right?
yeah.
So it's like what?
The other day, Halia, shout out Halia, but she something about this Jubilee video that she watched, where it was like Muslim versus non-Muslim people debating, and one Muslim
Middle ground Jubilee video.
Yeah,
Recommend.
Middle ground is so
yeah,
good.
it's
So
so
good
good.
yesterday.
It's so good. But apparently, one Muslim guy, he said he compared homosexuality to incest. He
Yeah.
said,
What?
yeah,
She told us about this in Econ, remember?
Very
because
vaguely.
he said apparently
So
that why that's what he said. He said like why do we scrutinize incest? You know, if it's two people in love, they can't reproduce, or even, like let's say they don't reproduce, they're not technically supposed to be in love. And he compared that to homosexuality. He said that's how people who are homophobic feel about incest as well. They feel the same way about this two
Because
relationships.
he was trying to materialize how people who are homophobic feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
trying to describe homophobia.
It's a good analogy.
And it's such a good
It's really
analogy.
interesting, but it's not.
It's completely preposterous.
Yeah,
it's
no,
just incorrect. It's
Yeah.
just incorrect because ancestry is just wrong because there is biologically it is wrong because
There's
so many
actual
bad things.
consequences,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's consequences from being gay. What you actually help overpopulation.
Boom, boom.
But then I'd say something controversial. What about like same-sex incestual dynamics?
That's wrong.
That's
Incest
it's
comes
just incest.
Yeah,
And it's just-
because
I
if you're
feel
saying that your main point against incest in this case would be the false reproduction,
No.
and more
No,
just inherently,
I
yeah.
think inherently it's wrong because if someone feels the attraction to their sibling, to their family,
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
wrong with them.
Yeah.
There's actually something wrong with them. Because I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine feeling
Mm.
that way
No,
towards
exactly.
anyone in my family, right? So that's why it's wrong. Not because it's, like I don't.
It's from a biological
Yeah.
view, yeah.
No, but see, that's the thing. But see, literally, it's incest and incest and being gay was literally normal at the same time. Think about it.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Think about all the Romans that had their little
gay and incestual
hookers, yeah,
literally.
that were also their half
Brothers.
brothers.
Yeah, definitely. Like, come on.
Brutus and Caesar,
So
come on.
how did we actually get from like both of them being too many incestual kids came out and AIDS. So
But
both of
AIDS
them
happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's so recent.
It's so recent. I think that's also we need to talk about because we keep talking about God. We keep talking about God as this ancient concept, as this large ancient concept. If we break it down to a more modern perspective, and we do look at crises like AIDS, for example,
Yeah.
there's just something completely different about the way that God affected that crisis. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, for sure. I think there's literally a Wikipedia page called "The Problem of Evil," and it's like how can you justify God's presence
Yeah.
if so many people die and if there's so much evil? Full stop. If
Yeah.
He's this omnipotent, ever-powerful, positively native
Yeah,
human
I mean,
being.
there's that theory that
omnipresent. That's what he is. He's
Yeah,
omnipresent.
yeah,
yeah.
there's someone said Saint fucking I don't know, Augustus or something like that. He said that God is or bad is the lack of good. So with that logic, everything that's evil in the world is just the lack of God. That's what he said.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but God's omnipotent.
But
Yeah.
this goes back to our
Omnipresent,
first ever episode,
omnipresent.
by the way. This goes back to our very first
Yeah.
episode. Is there evil with no good? That means that God had to have brought evil.
Yeah, the
There's just-
pre-episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there, do you see where I was
I
kind of
do,
trailing
I
off?
do.
But I think that personally, if I was a person that was religious, I would also believe in the existence of evil because of God.
Hmm.
Do you see
Yeah,
what I
okay.
mean?
But would you still
Yeah.
see it as God's work or like Satan's work?
Work. Oh,
Yeah,
right, because
it's
Satan. Let's
Satan's
talk
work.
about Satan.
Yeah.
Guys, we need to talk
Yeah.
about hell. We've been talking about heaven, but hell. People are scared of hell because the church created hell. Jesus didn't even talk about hell,
Yes,
probably.
but how is it that if God is omnipresent, if God has this ultimate power over everything, but he can't defeat Satan?
And that's the problem of evil.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I guess he must keep him around for some reason. I guess
Because it means that God is a part, that Satan is a part of God.
yeah. So like,
But not the other way around. In my opinion, it cannot be the other way around.
Yeah.
but to be fair, like
So evil is a part of good.
yeah, wow.
And evil is the absolute absence of good as well.
Well,
And
oh,
God,
Yeah.
in,
in
this
that case,
yeah,
yeah.
in this
Sorry.
context.
No, I was.
points were bounced off.
No, dude, yeah, no, that.
But that's the thing. There's so many hypocrisies with trying to justify God because we don't have any evidence. So I think this is a good point where we could leave it.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, you know, just to like wrap it up, sort of, what is God? I think, you know,
God is different to everyone.
I
You
don't
know?
think it can be defined in like a 25-minute episode. You know, you're not going to answer the question of what is God,
That's a really good point. I think people have been trying to answer that for centuries now. Like, we
and it's just impossible.
So.
Yeah.
Shout out God.
Try again.
In 10,000 years.
Thank you so much for
Guys.
listening. Peace out.